Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Channel. Find yourself somewhere soft and quiet. Maybe you are already lying down. Maybe the lights are low and the world outside your window has grown still. That is exactly the right place to be right now. Take one slow breath in through your nose. Feel the air settle into your chest like a warm hand resting there. Then let it go, gently, unhurried, like a curtain drifting in an open window. Tonight, we are going to talk about sleep itself, not in a clinical or complicated way, just the soft, curious, wonderful truth of why your body quietly calls you back to stillness every single night. Why your eyes grow heavy, why the world softens at the edges, why rest is not a pause in your life, but a living, breathing, necessary part of it. There is so much happening inside you while you sleep. Tender, beautiful things that you never have to think about because your body already knows. Tonight, we will visit those things together, slowly, one gentle thought at a time. You do not have to remember any of this. You do not have to hold on to a single word. Just let it wash over you, the way soft rain washes over a garden just before dawn. Let your breathing slow, let your shoulders drop. We have nowhere to be and nothing to rush toward. This story will carry you, and your only job is to let it. So close your eyes if they want to close. Settle deeper into wherever you are, and let us begin, quietly, warmly, together, with the question of why we sleep. Your body has been here before. Every night of your whole life, it has known exactly what to do when the light fades and the sounds of the day begin to thin. It does not need to be reminded. It does not need instructions. Something ancient and wise inside you simply begins. A slow, steady turn toward stillness, as reliable as the tide. Inside your brain, tucked deep in a small region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, you can just think of it as your inner clock, are thousands of tiny cells that watch the light. They have been doing this your whole life, quietly noting when brightness begins to fade, when the air cools, when shadows lengthen across the floor, and when they sense the day shifting toward evening. They begin sending the softest of signals through your body, time to slow down. This inner clock is tuned to something much older than you, older than any building you have ever walked into, older than language itself. It is synchronized with the rhythm of the Earth's rotation, the same turning that pulls morning light over the mountains and draws the stars out above the sea at night. You carry that rhythm inside you. It has always been there. One of the first things your inner clock does as evening comes is signal a small gland, the pineal gland, shaped a little like a tiny pine cone and sitting right in the center of your brain, to begin releasing melatonin. Melatonin is sometimes called the hormone of darkness, but that name makes it sound harsher than it is. Think of it more like a gentle tide coming in, a slow, sweet signal that spreads through your blood and whispers, soften, rest, let the day go. Your body temperature begins to drop, not dramatically, just a degree or so. But that small descent is meaningful. It is your body drawing heat inward, like a house closing its shutters for the night. Your hands and feet may feel slightly warmer as blood moves toward the surface to release that heat. And then, gradually, everything quiets. Your heart rate begins to slow. Your breathing deepens. The muscles in your face, around your eyes, your jaw, your forehead, begin to release tension you may not even have known you were holding. Your eyelids grow heavier than any thought. In the hours before sleep, you might notice that the world seems to shimmer a little. Sounds feel slightly more distant. The edges of your focus soften. This is not tiredness in the depleted sense. It is your body preparing a doorway and gently leading you toward it. Somewhere around 90 minutes after that first melatonin signal, your brain waves begin to slow. Rapid, alert beta waves give way to the gentler alpha waves that come when your mind relaxes. The same waves that appear when you're daydreaming or staring at a candle flame or watching rain slide down glass. You're not asleep yet, but you are in the most beautiful in-between place, the borderlands of rest, where the day releases its grip and something softer takes over. Every creature on Earth that has a nervous system sleeps in some way. Dolphins sleep with half their brain at a time, the other half keeping them swimming and breathing at the surface. Migratory birds can sleep while flying, riding warm air currents with their eyes half closed. Even fruit flies have a version of sleep. When deprived of it, they become disoriented and live shorter lives. Sleep is not a luxury invented by comfort. It is written into the fabric of life itself. The question of why we sleep is one that scientists have been asking for centuries. And the honest answer is, there is not one single reason. There are dozens, layered, interwoven, each one as important as the next. Sleep is not doing one thing while you lie still. It is doing everything quietly beneath your awareness. Your brain is more active in certain stages of sleep than it is while you sit reading. Your body is repairing, consolidating, clearing, growing. Sleep is not the absence of living. It is one of life's most essential expressions. So tonight, as you feel the weight of your body sinking into where you rest, know that something wise and ancient has taken over. You are in good hands, your own and those of something far larger. The same intelligence that turns the earth also turns you gently toward the dark. And in that dark, everything you need is already waiting. If this kind of gentle storytelling helps you rest, you might like some of our other stories in the playlist. There are stories about rain and rivers, about forests breathing at night, about the quiet lives of stars. They are all there for you whenever you need them. Sleep is not a single, flat thing, a simple off switch that flips and holds until morning. It is more like a landscape. It has valleys and gentle rises, deep, quiet pools and soft shallows. Each night, you travel through it in repeating loops, each one carrying you somewhere slightly different, and each one doing something specific and irreplaceable. Scientists who study sleep in laboratories can watch its structure unfold through the night using something called an electroencephalogram, which measures the electrical activity of the brain. The patterns it traces are beautiful, rolling waves that shift and change through the hours, telling a story of where the sleeping mind is traveling. The first stage of sleep is barely sleep at all. It is the threshold. You are drifting. If someone spoke your name in this stage, you would likely hear it. Your muscles might twitch suddenly, as if catching yourself from a stumble, and you would startle back awake for just a moment. This is called a hypnic jerk, and it is completely natural. Some scientists think it is an old reflex, a remnant from our ancestors who slept in trees and needed to catch themselves from falling. Even in sleep, your body remembers something ancient. From there, you slide into the second stage, proper light sleep. Your heart rate slows further. Your muscles relax more deeply. The brain produces occasional bursts of very fast activity called sleep spindles, little fireworks of electrical energy that seem to play a role in sorting and filing the experiences of the day. There is something lovely about imagining that even as you lie completely still, parts of your mind are quietly organizing, like a librarian working late, gently placing each book back in its right home. After perhaps 20 minutes of this second stage, you descend into the third stage, deep sleep, or slow wave sleep. This is the most physically restorative part of the night. Your brain waves become long, slow, rolling surges, delta waves, so slow you could almost count them on one hand per minute. Your body is as still as it has been all day. Your blood pressure drops to its lowest point. Growth hormone is released into your bloodstream, not just for children growing taller, but for adults too, helping repair tiny tears in muscle tissue, refreshing the skin, rebuilding cells throughout the body. This is the stage where a sound sleeper is hardest to wake. If you have ever tried to rouse someone from deep sleep, you may have seen that confused, dazed expression, as if they are surfacing from somewhere very far below. They were. Deep sleep pulls you to the quietest possible place, as far from wakefulness as the mind can go. Then, about 90 minutes after you first drifted off, something remarkable begins. You rise back through the stages, up through deep sleep, through light sleep, and arrive somewhere entirely different. Rapid eye movement sleep, REM. This is the stage most associated with dreaming. Under your closed eyelids, your eyes dart and flicker. Your brain, measured now, shows activity almost indistinguishable from full wakefulness. And yet, your body is more completely paralyzed than at any other point in the night. Your major muscles are held still by a chemical signal so that you cannot act out your dreams. Dreams in REM sleep can feel extraordinarily vivid, full of color, motion, emotion. You might find yourself flying over water or speaking to someone you love, or in a place that does not quite exist. Neuroscientists believe REM sleep plays a crucial role in processing emotions, not just filing them, but somehow softening their sharp edges, integrating them into the larger story of who you are. A pain felt before sleep can feel more bearable in the morning, and that shift happens here in the dreaming mind. After your first REM period, usually just 10 or 15 minutes, you slide back down through the stages again, cycling through the whole journey once more. Each cycle lasts roughly 90 minutes. Most people complete 4 or 5 cycles in a full night. But here is what changes as the night goes on. In the early cycles, you spend more time in deep sleep. In the later cycles, your REM periods grow longer. By the last hour or two before waking, you may spend nearly half of each cycle in dream sleep, your resting mind doing its most complex emotional and cognitive work in the soft gray light just before dawn. This is why a full night of sleep is not simply more of the same. It is qualitatively different at different points. Cutting sleep short does not just mean less rest. It means missing the later REM cycles, the longer dreams, the emotional processing that happens there. It is like leaving a symphony at intermission. You heard the first movement, but not the resolution. The architecture of sleep is one of the most elegant things your body does, a nightly ritual of restoration that has been refined over millions of years of evolution. And it requires nothing of you. No effort, no thought, no skill, only willingness. River inside your brain that only flows at night. It is the river of dreams, the river of sleep. It is the river of your soul. It is the river of your heart. It is the river of your mind. It is the river of your life. It is the river of your love. It is the river of your joy. It is the river of your peace. It is the river of your hope. It is the river of your faith. It is the river of your strength. It is the river of your courage. It is the river of your spirit. It is the river of your soul. It is the river of your heart. It is the river of your mind. It is the river of your life. It is the river of your love. It is the river of your joy. It is the river of your peace. It is the river of your hope. It is the river of your faith. It is the river of your strength. It is the river of your courage. It is the river of your spirit. It is the river of your soul. It is the river of your heart. It is the river of your mind. It is the river of your life. It is the river of your love. It is the river of your joy. It is the river of your peace. It is the river of your hope. It is the river of your faith. It is the river of your strength. It is the river of your courage. It is the river of your spirit. It is the river of your soul. It is the river of your heart. It is the river of your mind. It is the river of your life. It is the river of your love. It is the river of your joy. It is the river of your peace. It is the river of your hope. It is the river of your faith. It is the river of your strength. It is the river of your courage. It is the river of your spirit. It is the river of your soul. It is the river of your heart. It is the river of your mind. It is the river of your life. It is the river of your love. It is the river of your joy. It is the river of your peace. It is the river of your hope. It is the river of your faith. It is the river of your strength. It is the river of your courage. It is the river of your spirit. It is the river of your soul. It is the river of your heart. It is the river of your mind. It is the river of your life. It is the river of your love. It is the river of your joy. It is the river of your peace. It is the river of your hope. It is the river of your faith. It is the river of your strength. It is the river of your courage. It is the river inside your brain that only flows at night. You cannot feel it moving. You would never know it was there unless someone showed you through the most delicate of scientific instruments. But it flows nonetheless, quietly, faithfully, washing through the narrow spaces between your brain cells with a slow, gentle current, carrying away the day's debris. It is called the glymphatic system, and it was only discovered in 2013. Scientists at the University of Rochester found that the brain has its own dedicated cleaning network, one that operates almost exclusively during sleep, and particularly during deep, slow-wave sleep. The word comes from glia, the support cells of the brain that manage this flow, and lymphatic, from the body's broader waste clearance system. Together, they form something that sounds almost mythological, a midnight river that cleanses the mind. During the day, as your brain works, thinking, remembering, feeling, perceiving, it produces metabolic waste products. These are the byproducts of all that beautiful activity, proteins and molecules that accumulate between cells and need to be cleared away. The most well-known of these is amyloid beta, a protein that, if allowed to build up over years, is associated with certain forms of cognitive decline. Your brain knows this, and so every night when you sleep, it opens a pathway. The channels around your brain's blood vessels widen, expanding by as much as 60% in some studies. Cerebrospinal fluid, the clear liquid that cushions your brain and spinal cord, begins to pulse through these expanded channels more vigorously. It sweeps between neurons like a gentle tide, moving through a mangrove forest, reaching into every quiet space, gathering what no longer belongs, and carrying it away to be processed by the body. Imagine a city after a long day. The streets are still warm from all that movement and life. And then, when the shops close and the people go home, the street cleaners come out, slow and thorough, washing the pavement, clearing the gutters, leaving everything fresh for the morning. Your brain is that city, and sleep is the cleaning crew it has been waiting for. One of the most beautiful aspects of this system is how it prioritizes. Deep sleep, the slow rolling waves of the third stage, seems to drive the glymphatic flow most powerfully. The slower your brain waves, the more the system pulses. The deeper you sleep, the cleaner your morning mind. This is why a night of genuinely deep rest leaves you feeling not just rested in body, but clearer in thought, as if someone has gently wiped a fogged window from the inside. There is also something called adenosine to consider. Throughout the day, as your neurons fire and work, they produce adenosine, a chemical that gradually accumulates in the brain and is one of the main drivers of sleep pressure, the growing need for sleep you feel as the day goes on. Caffeine, if you have ever wondered, works by blocking adenosine receptors. It does not reduce adenosine itself, only masks its signal. Sleep is what actually clears it. Each night of good rest essentially resets your adenosine levels so that you wake with a clean slate, the pressure lifted, the clock reset. This is why sleep-deprived people do not simply feel tired. They feel foggy, muddled. They have difficulty making decisions, finding words, holding on to new information. The cleaning river has not flowed properly. The city streets are still littered with yesterday. Thoughts that should be clear are obscured. But give that person a full, deep night of rest, and something remarkable happens. They wake different, not just less tired, actually different. The fog has cleared. The river did its work in the dark hours, and the morning mind is something new. There is a tenderness in this fact that moves me every time I sit with it. Your brain, the seat of everything you are, every memory, every affection, every hope, takes such exquisite care of itself while you sleep. It does not need you to do anything. It does not ask for help. It simply waits for you to lie down, and then it begins its quiet, faithful work. All you have to do is let it. All you have to do is rest. If you are enjoying this journey, feel free to leave a comment below. It means a great deal to know you are here, settling in with these stories. And there is so much more in the playlist, waiting for you whenever you need a quiet place to land. Think of everything you learned today. Perhaps it was something small, the way a word sounded in a new context, the route you took through an unfamiliar street, the feeling of a conversation that shifted something gently inside you. All of it entered your brain through the day, through your senses and your attention, held in temporary storage like letters waiting to be sorted. And then, tonight, the sorting begins. Memory consolidation is one of sleep's most extraordinary gifts. What you experience during the day is first held in the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped region deep in the brain that acts as a kind of temporary holding area for new information. It is remarkable at what it does, but it is limited in capacity. It cannot hold everything indefinitely. And so, while you sleep, the hippocampus works with the cortex, the outer, wrinkled surface of the brain where long-term memories are stored, to transfer what is worth keeping. This transfer happens in waves. During slow-wave deep sleep, the hippocampus replays the day's experiences quickly, compressed, like a fast-forward through a film. Neuroscientists have actually captured this. By tracking which neurons fire when a rat learns a new maze, they have observed those same neurons firing again in the same sequence during the rat's subsequent sleep. The sleeping brain is rehearsing, reviewing, deciding what to keep. What makes it to long-term storage is not necessarily what you tried hardest to memorize. It is what your brain, in its wisdom, has flagged as emotionally significant, or repeated, or connected to something you already know. Sleep is the moment when learning becomes knowing. There are different kinds of memory, and sleep seems to help each of them in its own way. Declarative memory, facts and events, appears to benefit most from slow-wave sleep. Procedural memory, the memory of how to do things, like riding a bicycle or playing a musical scale, is especially consolidated during REM sleep. This is why musicians and athletes often report that their bodies seem to remember things better after a good night of sleep. A passage you practiced haltingly in the afternoon might flow more smoothly in the morning, not because your fingers changed, but because your brain spent the night quietly rehearsing, polishing, integrating. There is also something called targeted memory reactivation. In studies, when people learn information associated with a particular smell or sound, and that smell or sound is played softly while they sleep, not loud enough to wake them, their recall of the associated material improves significantly. The sleeping brain, it turns out, is not fully sealed from the world. It is listening lightly for cues. If the cue arrives, it pulls the associated memory forward for review. This means that the hours before sleep are more important than most people realize. What you choose to fill your mind with in the evening, the books you read, the conversations you have, the thoughts you let linger, these are the things your sleeping brain will be working with through the night. You are, in a sense, curating your dreams and your morning mind with the texture of your evening. Sleep also helps with forgetting, and that is not a flaw, but a feature. The brain does not simply copy everything into long-term storage. It actively prunes. Connections between neurons that are weak or unused are allowed to fade. The synaptic strength of connections formed during the day is selectively reduced during sleep, in a process sometimes called synaptic homeostasis. This is essential. If every connection stayed at full strength, the system would become saturated, unable to learn anything new. Forgetting is how the mind stays supple. Sleep is the night gardener, quietly pruning so that new things have room to grow. You have likely felt this without knowing it. The way a problem that seemed impossible at night sometimes seems solvable in the morning. Your brain was not simply rested, it was reorganizing. The rigid framing of the evening before had a chance to soften and shift, and new connections formed between things that had not previously seemed related. Sleeping on it is not a folk saying without basis. It is a description of something that is neurologically real. This is one of the reasons that learning before sleep can be especially effective. Your brain will spend the night gently working with what you gave it, not in any effortful way, but the way a river smooths a stone over and over without hurry, without force, until what was rough becomes easy. And this too is part of why sleep is not time lost, not a gap in the day. By morning, you will be someone who knows by morning. You will be someone who knows a little more than you did before, even if you cannot say exactly why. Before we go further into this soft night, take a breath. Notice how your body has grown a little heavier since we began. Notice how the sounds around you, if there are any, seem slightly more distant now. This is a good thing. You are settling. Your nervous system is beginning its long, quiet exhale. Sleep does something for your emotional life that nothing else can quite replicate. And the more you understand it, the more tender you might feel toward the act of rest, not just as a physical necessity, but as an act of care for your inner world. You may have noticed that everything feels harder when you have not slept well. A remark that would normally roll off becomes a wound. A small inconvenience feels enormous. Joy, even when it is right in front of you, seems slightly out of reach, visible, but not quite felt. This is not weakness or irrationality. It is neuroscience. The amygdala, the almond-shaped region of the brain that processes emotional responses, including fear and stress, becomes significantly more reactive when you are sleep-deprived. In brain imaging studies, people who had been kept awake showed amygdala responses up to 60% stronger than those who had slept normally in reaction to distressing images. The part of the brain that rings the alarm was louder and more easily triggered. Meanwhile, the connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, the thoughtful, regulating part of the brain that helps you respond rather than just react, weakens under sleep deprivation. The calm hand of reason loses some of its influence. The alarm keeps ringing, and the part of you that would normally say, "It is all right, we can handle this," grows quieter. Sleep restores that connection. REM sleep in particular seems to play a profound role in emotional regulation. During REM, the brain processes emotionally significant experiences, not just filing them away, but working with the feelings attached to them. There is a theory developed by neuroscientist Matthew Walker that during REM sleep, memory is replayed without the stress neurochemical noradrenaline, which normally accompanies emotional experiences. The memory is rehearsed, but in a calmer chemical environment. Over time, this may be why the sharp sting of a painful experience can soften. Not because you have forgotten it, but because your brain has returned to it again and again in the night, each time in a slightly more peaceful state, and gradually separated the memory from the acute pain. It is, in a way, like putting a wound in the gentlest possible hands each night and allowing it to be tended. REM sleep also seems connected to our capacity for empathy and social understanding. Studies have found that sleep-deprived people are less accurate at reading the emotional expressions of others. They misread neutral faces as hostile or fail to notice the subtle cues of sadness in a voice. We become slightly less able to reach each other when we have not slept, and we become more able, more present, more attuned, more generous in our interpretation of the world when we have. There is also something beautiful in what sleep does for mood at the most basic level. During sleep, particularly in slow-wave stages, levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, drop to their lowest point. The body's stress response, which during the day keeps you alert and reactive and ready, is given a deep rest. The system that has been running at some level of vigilance all day finally stands down. Think of it like a guard at a gate who has been on duty since before sunrise. As you fall deeper into sleep, they set down their watch, take off their coat, and sit somewhere warm and quiet, not abandoning their post, just resting as any living thing must. And when they return to duty in the morning, they are steadier for it, more measured, less prone to seeing threat in every shadow. Your nervous system is doing something similar every night. The parasympathetic system, the branch that governs rest and restoration, sometimes called the rest and digest system, takes precedence. Digestion slows, heart rate drops, blood pressure eases. The body remembers, as it always does, that it is safe enough to rest. And in that safety, something deep inside you is quietly made whole again. So, when you wake in the morning after good sleep and find that something that worried you last night seems smaller or more manageable or simply different, you were right. It is different. You worked on it in the dark without knowing. And you are different too. Your body is a master craftsperson, and sleep is its workshop. Every night, while your mind is quiet and your eyes are closed, an extraordinary amount of invisible labor is underway. Repairing, renewing, maintaining the extraordinary machinery of being alive. The immune system is one of the first places where sleep's influence is felt. When you sleep, your body produces and releases proteins called cytokines, signaling molecules that help direct immune responses, inflammation, and communication between cells. Some cytokines are specifically produced more during sleep. They help your body fight infection, respond to stress, and maintain the ongoing surveillance that keeps you healthy. When you are ill and feel the pull of sleep more strongly than usual, your body is asking for what it needs to heal. Studies of sleep deprivation and immune function are striking. In one well-known experiment, volunteers were intentionally exposed to a cold virus. Those who had been sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night were 4 times more likely to develop the cold than those sleeping more than 7 hours. The immune difference between those groups was not trivial. It was enormous. Vaccines even work better in people who are well rested. After receiving a vaccine for influenza, participants who slept well in the following days showed substantially stronger antibody responses than those who did not. The sleeping body does not just accept the vaccine, it works with it, integrating the new information, building the defense. Your cardiovascular system also uses the night for its quietest, most essential maintenance. During deep sleep, blood pressure falls, sometimes by 10 to 20%, giving the heart and blood vessels a genuine rest. This nightly dip is considered so important to heart health that researchers even have a name for people whose blood pressure does not fall sufficiently at night: non-dippers, and they carry a higher cardiovascular risk. The night is not neutral for your heart. It is restorative. Blood sugar regulation is deeply intertwined with sleep as well. Even a few nights of poor sleep can impair the body's sensitivity to insulin, the hormone that allows cells to absorb glucose from the blood. The body begins to handle sugar less efficiently, leaving more of it circulating in the bloodstream. This is not a permanent change, and it reverses with recovered sleep, but it speaks to how tightly metabolism and rest are woven together. Your hormones dance a careful nightly choreography. Growth hormone, essential not just for children growing taller, but for the repair and maintenance of tissues throughout life, is released in its largest pulse during the first deep sleep cycle of the night. Miss that window of deep sleep, and the pulse is diminished. There is no catching it later in the night. This is one reason that the first hours of sleep are not interchangeable with later hours. The body has a schedule, and it tends its work in order. Cortisol, the stress hormone, follows the opposite rhythm. It is lowest in the middle of the night and rises in the final hour or two before natural waking, preparing you to face the day. This is not stress in the threatening sense. It is mobilization, a gentle gathering of readiness. Your body is always preparing you for what comes next, even as you sleep. The skin, too, uses the night well. Cell turnover, the replacement of old skin cells with new ones, happens predominantly during sleep. Blood flow to the skin increases. Collagen synthesis, which maintains the skin's structure and elasticity, is supported by growth hormone released during deep sleep. The phrase beauty sleep turns out to be not entirely a metaphor. Even digestion takes a different character at night. While you are not eating, the gut engages in something called the migrating motor complex, a wave of contractions that sweeps through the small intestine roughly every 90 minutes, clearing out debris and maintaining the gut's health between meals. It is thought that sleep, or at least horizontal rest and fasting, supports this process. Your digestive system, in a quiet way, also has its own version of the midnight cleaning shift. All of this is happening in you right now. The workshop is open. The craftspeople are at their tasks. You do not need to manage any of it or understand all of it. Your only role is to be still and to trust, as you have trusted every night of your life, even without knowing, that your body knows exactly what to do. Rest is not passive. Rest is the condition in which your body does some of its most important living. And tonight, as always, it is doing it beautifully. If you are finding this story restful, a like on this video helps more people find their way here too, and it means a lot. Thank you for being here. There is a quiet river that runs through sleep, and its name is dreaming. Not every person remembers their dreams in the morning. Memory for them is fragile, washed away by waking. But everyone dreams. Every single night, somewhere in those cycling hours of rest, your mind opens into something extraordinary. The most vivid dreaming happens during REM sleep, when your brain is buzzing with activity and your eyes are darting beneath their lids. But something softer and stranger may also happen in the hypnagogic state, that borderland between waking and sleep, where images and sounds arise without any logic or intention, like reflections on water that has no clear surface. Dreams are one of the oldest mysteries of human experience. People have been wondering about them for as long as we have records of human wondering. And while we do not have a single agreed-upon explanation for why we dream, we have begun to understand some of what dreams might be doing. One of the most elegant theories is that dreaming, especially REM dreaming, is a kind of simulation. Your brain, freed from the demands of the external world, runs scenarios. It tests possibilities, rehearses responses, explores combinations of experience that waking life never offered. Like a flight simulator for a pilot, dreaming may allow the emotional and social brain to practice, to experience fear without real danger, to feel connection without needing another person present, to process loss in a space where nothing can be lost again. There is a structure to dream experience that feels significant. In REM dreams, the emotional centers of the brain are highly active. The amygdala, the anterior cingulate cortex, the limbic system. The parts of the brain associated with rational linear thought are somewhat quieter. This is why dreams feel so emotionally real, so vivid and urgent, even when their logic would dissolve immediately under waking scrutiny. The dreaming mind is not trying to make sense. It is trying to feel and to integrate. Some neuroscientists describe REM sleep as emotional first aid. When something difficult happens to you, a grief, a conflict, a fright, the sleeping brain returns to it in the night, but in a neurochemical environment stripped of the stress hormone noradrenaline. The emotional content is replayed, reviewed, but in a calmer internal weather. Gradually, over nights and weeks, the sharp edge of the experience may soften. The memory remains, but its charge changes. This is one reason why sleeping on a painful thing genuinely helps. You're not avoiding it. You're giving your brain the conditions it needs to work with it properly. Dreams can also be a place where the mind makes unexpected connections. The brain during REM is in a state of what researchers call hyperassociativity. It draws links between things that waking logic would keep separate. A problem you have been turning over in your mind might present itself in dream form as a visual metaphor. And the solution, when you wake and sit with it, might be there, offered from some sideways angle you had not considered before. Artists and scientists throughout history have spoken of dreams as a source of insight. The chemist Auguste Kekulé described dreaming of a snake biting its own tail and waking with the ring structure of benzene. Paul McCartney reportedly heard the melody of Yesterday in a dream. These moments feel magical, but they may simply be the hyperassociative dream mind doing what it always does, connecting the unconnected, and occasionally producing something remarkable. Not all dreams are narrative. Some are purely sensory, colors, textures, sounds, a feeling of warmth or motion without any story attached. These fragment dreams seem to happen more in lighter sleep stages, and they may be a gentler form of the same process, the mind sifting through the day's sensory residue, sorting what to keep, what to let dissolve. The details of dreams fade so quickly upon waking because the brain, in its transition back to consciousness, begins rapidly pruning the connections that held the dream together. If you do not reach for the memory within the first few minutes, it is often gone. This is not a failing of memory, but a feature, a sign that the dream has done its work, and the record of it is no longer needed. What your dreams contain, whatever landscapes or faces or feelings visit you tonight, will be yours alone, unique to your history and your mind, as personal as a fingerprint. And whatever they are part of this same great process, the mind caring for itself in its own quiet language in the dark. There is something deeply moving about watching a child sleep. The complete surrender of it, the soft, unconscious trust. And something is happening in those hours that is even more extraordinary than it appears. The sleeping child is, in a very real sense, being built. Children sleep far more than adults. Newborns sleep 16 to 18 hours a day. Toddlers need 12 to 14. School-age children, 8 to 11. Even teenagers, whose sleep schedules shift dramatically with puberty, need 9 to 10 hours, more than most adults realize or allow. These are not arbitrary recommendations. They are the amounts of sleep associated with healthy development. Because sleep is not just rest for the growing body. It is an active ingredient in growth itself. Growth hormone is released in its greatest concentration during deep sleep. The slow, quiet waves that come in the early hours of the night. In children, this pulse of growth hormone is essential not just for physical height, but for muscle development, fat regulation, and the maturation of organs. The body literally grows while it sleeps, as if the quiet and stillness of the night give it room that the busy daytime cannot. The brain undergoes its most dramatic development in the first years of life, and much of that development happens during sleep. In the womb and through early infancy, REM sleep comprises an extraordinary proportion of total sleep, sometimes more than half. Scientists believe this is because REM sleep drives the production of neural connections. The flickering, dreaming activity of the REM brain may stimulate the developing nervous system from within, building the very pathways that will later carry thought and feeling and language. As children grow older and their brains mature, the proportion of REM sleep decreases, and the ratio of deep sleep to REM shifts as well. It is as if the brain, having laid its foundational wiring in the early years, requires different things from sleep at each new stage. For school-age children, sleep is intimately tied to learning. Children who sleep well after learning new information show stronger retention the next day. Children who are chronically short on sleep have measurably more difficulty with attention, working memory, and executive function, the cognitive skills that allow them to plan, make decisions, and regulate their own behavior. Sleep is not separate from their education. It is part of it. Adolescence brings one of the most misunderstood aspects of sleep, the phase shift. During puberty, the timing of melatonin release shifts later, sometimes by 2 hours or more. This is biological, not behavioral. The adolescent brain genuinely does not feel sleepy until later in the evening, and genuinely wants to sleep later in the morning. The teenager who cannot fall asleep at 10 is not being difficult. Their inner clock has moved. This creates a poignant mismatch with early school start times, a mismatch that research has shown significantly affects adolescent health, academic performance, mental well-being, and even physical safety, as drowsy driving is one of the leading causes of accidents among young people. Schools that have moved their start times later have seen measurable improvements in all of these areas. But beyond the data, there is something worth sitting with. The biological shift of adolescence is real, and the teenager lying awake in the dark is not failing at something. They are moving through a phase of development that has its own timing, its own rhythm, as natural as the growth of the bones beneath their skin. For adults who are no longer growing in the literal sense, sleep still supports the renewal that keeps the body young. Cellular repair continues throughout life. The immune vigilance that sleep supports becomes more important, not less, as we age. The emotional regulation that REM sleep provides does not diminish in its necessity. We need the cleaning river, the filing librarian, the workshop of the body's repair. All of it, always, every night. And perhaps most beautifully, something in us never entirely stops growing. The mind's capacity for connection, for understanding, for feeling. And sleep, in its faithful nightly work, tends to that too. If you have little ones of your own, or are remembering what it felt like to be small and easily carried off by sleep, there is something sweet in knowing that the same intelligence that worked in you then is working in you still. It has never stopped. It never will. Step outside for a moment in your mind. It is dark. The air is cool and carries the faint smell of soil and green things. Above you, the stars have arranged themselves the way they always do. Ancient, unhurried, each one burning in a darkness so vast that the distance between them is a kind of silence. This is the world you were made for sleeping in. This dark, this quiet, this cool. Before there were cities with their orange glow leaking upward into the sky. Before there were screens casting blue light into open eyes. Human beings slept in a world that made sleep easy. The sky went dark, the air cooled, the fires burned low. And the body did exactly what its millions of years of evolution had prepared it to do. It followed the light downward and rested. The biological clock in your brain, that small, remarkable cluster of cells in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, was calibrated against natural light. Dawn light, which is rich in blue wavelengths, signals the brain to suppress melatonin and increase cortisol. The body wakes. Evening light, which shifts toward red and orange as the sun nears the horizon, begins the melatonin release. The body prepares to rest. This is why the quality of light in your environment matters so much. Artificial light, particularly the blue-rich light of screens and LED bulbs, can mimic the signal of daylight, telling your brain that it is still morning, even at 10 at night. Melatonin is suppressed. Sleep is delayed. The ancient rhythm is disrupted, not by any failure of the body, but by a mismatch between what the body was designed for and the world it currently inhabits. But even knowing this, something in you can find its way back to the older rhythm. Lower the lights in the evening. Let the screens grow dark earlier. Let the room cool. These are not tricks or hacks. They are simply a return to the conditions your body already knows and loves. A quiet invitation back to what your biology has always been calling you toward. Animals across the natural world follow light cues with extraordinary precision. The Arctic tern migrates between the Arctic and Antarctic, tracking the light of 2 summers per year. Fireflies synchronize their blinking to the rhythms of darkness and warmth. Flowers open and close according to light, even in the absence of external cues. Some botanists have noted that certain flowers maintain their daily opening schedule even when kept in constant light, suggesting the clock is internal, not just responsive. Trees respond to light too. The leaves of many species close at night, a behavior called nyctinacity, which may help conserve moisture or protect the leaf from cold. Some trees have been observed through sensitive measurements to actually droop slightly during the night, as if resting in their own quiet way, and lift slightly again in the early morning. Whether this is a form of rest in any meaningful sense, scientists are not yet certain. But there is something tender in the image. The whole forest settling at nightfall, leaves folding inward, the great canopy breathing slower in the dark. Coral reefs have their own nightly rhythms. Many coral polyps, which are animals despite looking like rock, extend their feeding tentacles at night, fishing in the dark water for tiny plankton. Fish that are active by day retreat into crevices and holes as evening comes, changing color as they rest, some even secreting a mucus cocoon around themselves while they sleep. The reef that pulses with color and motion by day becomes quieter, darker, more interior at night. Even the ocean has its version of sleep. Your own rhythm is part of this larger thing, not separate from the world's rhythms, but woven into them, part of the same ancient pattern of alternating light and dark, motion and stillness that has governed life on this planet since before the first multicellular creatures moved through the shallow seas. You are a living expression of the Earth's turning. Your sleepiness at night is the Earth's rotation pulling at you. Your waking with the light is the same force that opens the flowers and turns the birds east. You are not in the world, you are of it completely, in every cell and rhythm. And right now, as the night holds you, the world's turning is on your side. It is doing what it has always done, carrying you gently through the dark toward the light, with sleep as the country you pass through on the way. Feel free to leave a comment if this story is helping you rest. I love knowing you're here, and there are more stories just like this in the playlist. For all the nights you need a quiet place to land. There is a kind of intelligence in stillness that we sometimes forget to honor. We live in a world that celebrates motion, output, wakefulness. A world that speaks of sleep as something we must grudgingly allow ourselves, as if it were a concession to weakness But this is a very new idea, and a very strange one, when you set it against the vast span of time that living things have been resting. Sleep is older than consciousness, older by millions of years than the ability to reflect on it. The first fish that drifted to the bottom of a warm, shallow sea and rested in the dark was not choosing between productivity and indulgence. It was doing what life has always done, cycling, moving between states, breathing out what was full so that there was room for what was needed. There is a concept in some traditions of rest as active, not the absence of something, but a presence in itself. The Japanese word ma'a describes the meaningful pause, the space between notes in music or moments in time that gives structure and resonance to what surrounds it. Sleep might be understood as the most essential ma of all, the pause that allows the music of your days to be coherent, beautiful, worth hearing. Indigenous peoples in many parts of the world have spoken of sleep and dreaming as a form of knowing, a way of receiving guidance or understanding that the busy waking mind cannot access. The dreaming mind, looser and more associative, may indeed perceive connections that waking logic misses. This is not mysticism. It is a recognition arriving from a very different angle of the same truth that neuroscientists have found. The sleeping mind is not dormant. It is working in its own way, in its own language. Cultures that have maintained midday rest, the siesta traditions of Southern Europe and Latin America, the afternoon nap in many parts of Asia, have long understood something that efficiency-focused modernity is slowly rediscovering. Brief, intentional rest during the day does not take time away from productivity. It restores the capacity for it. A short nap of 10 to 20 minutes has been shown to improve alertness, mood, and cognitive performance in the hours that follow, sometimes more effectively than a cup of coffee. NASA researchers found that a 40-minute nap improved pilot performance by 34% and alertness by 100%. These are not marginal effects. They are significant. Rest is not the enemy of function. It is its foundation. But even beyond what rest accomplishes, even beyond the memory consolidation and the immune support and the emotional repair, there is something worth saying about the value of stillness for its own sake. Something that cannot be measured in a study, but that many people feel when they allow themselves genuine rest. A kind of spaciousness, a sense of coming home to themselves. We are creatures of enormous complexity, inner lives of astonishing richness, capable of feeling things with great depth and nuance. And yet, we often live at such a pace that those depths go unvisited. We skim along the surface, efficient and busy, and rarely drop below into the quieter, warmer water where the most important things tend to live. Sleep is one of the very few moments when the surface quiets enough that the depths can rise. When the noise of the day falls away and something more essential becomes audible. Not instructions or demands, but something quieter and more trustworthy. A felt sense of who you are beneath all the doing and producing and responding. In the moments just before sleep, that gentle, hypnagogic borderland, many people report a loosening of the usual self-consciousness, a softening of the boundaries between self and world, a quality of openness and receptiveness that can feel almost luminous. This is not sleep yet, but it is a form of wisdom, the mind releasing its grip on what it thinks it knows, becoming briefly available to something larger. You may not remember those moments in the morning, but they are real, and they are yours, and something in them matters. So, as you rest tonight, you are not only repairing and restoring, you are also, in the most literal sense, returning to yourself, to the quieter, deeper version of yourself that exists beneath the daily noise. The one that has always known how to be still. Your body tells the story of sleep in ways you never hear, a conversation between systems that runs quietly beneath your awareness, as constant and faithful as breathing. Your heart, for instance, does not simply slow uniformly through the night. It has its own nocturnal rhythm, a subtle variation in the time between beats that researchers call heart rate variability. During deep sleep, the heart settles into a lower, more regular rhythm, a sign of deep parasympathetic dominance, the rest and restore mode that the body craves. During REM sleep, the heart rate becomes slightly more irregular and variable, rising and falling as dream states shift. In a way, your sleeping heart is responsive to your dreaming, beating faster in moments of emotional intensity within the dream, slowing in moments of calm. Your breathing, too, has its own nocturnal grammar. In the earliest stages of sleep, breathing slows and deepens. In deep sleep, it becomes very regular, almost metronomic. During REM, it becomes more irregular and variable once more, occasionally pausing briefly before resuming. This irregularity is a reflection of the brain's engagement with the dream state, which is pulling the respiratory system slightly into its own rhythms. Even your eyes tell the story of where you are in sleep. In light sleep, the eyes roll slowly beneath their lids, a movement so gentle it can sometimes be seen from outside. In deep sleep, the eyes are still. In REM, they dart, sometimes rapidly, in multiple directions, in what appears to be a response to the visual content of dreams. Some researchers believe the eye movements track the gaze of the dreaming mind, following imagined movement through an imagined landscape. Others are less certain, but the movement is real and remarkable. The eyes, closed against the waking world, are still looking at something. The muscles tell their own story. In light sleep, muscle tone decreases somewhat, but remains. A sudden sound or sensation can cause an immediate muscular startle response. In deep sleep, the muscles are more relaxed still. And in REM sleep, something extraordinary happens. A signal from the brainstem actively inhibits the motor neurons that control the major muscles of the body. The arms, legs, and torso become, for the duration of REM, essentially paralyzed. The body cannot enact the movements of the dream. This is protective, evolutionary wisdom. Without it, we would act out our dreams with full physical force. cases where this inhibitory mechanism fails, a condition called REM sleep behavior disorder, do result in people thrashing, calling out, or physically moving during dream sleep. The contrast makes it clear how precisely the healthy brain manages this balance. A mind free to roam anywhere in the imagined world, while the body stays safely still. Temperature regulation is one of the most fascinating aspects of sleep physiology. In deep sleep, the body's thermostat, so to speak, operates in a restricted range. The body holds its temperature carefully, maintaining the conditions needed for restoration. In REM sleep, however, thermoregulation is largely suspended. You do not shiver if you cool, and you do not sweat if you warm. The body gives over this function entirely during dream sleep, which is one reason that being too hot or too cold can disrupt REM specifically. Without that external regulation, the body cannot compensate internally. This is why a cool room tends to support better sleep. It helps the body achieve the temperature drop that naturally accompanies sleep onset, and it provides a comfortable environment during the periods when the body cannot regulate itself. The old wisdom of sleeping in cool, dark, quiet conditions is not arbitrary. Every element of it is supported by the physiology of what sleep needs to do. Your blood tells the story too. During sleep, inflammatory markers often decrease. Anti-inflammatory cytokines are produced. The chemistry of your blood shifts toward restoration rather than response. White blood cells move more freely, surveilling the body's tissues, responding to any early signs of infection or damage. Your blood is doing its most careful, thorough work while you rest. Even your liver changes its rhythm. The liver, which processes nutrients and filters substances from the blood, follows a circadian rhythm of its own. Certain metabolic processes that happen in the liver are more active at night, synchronized with the sleep-wake cycle. When people work night shifts and sleep during the day, this rhythm is disrupted. The liver is asked to do its nighttime work at the wrong time, and health consequences can follow over the long term. All of these stories, heart, breath, eyes, muscles, blood, are being told in you right now. A nightly narrative of extraordinary complexity and precision, written not in words, but in rhythms, chemicals, and the quiet electricity of cells. You do not need to follow it or understand it. You only need to let it happen. And you are already letting it happen. Right now, simply by being still. You are not alone in this night. Across the dark world, other creatures are moving through their own relationship with rest and wakefulness. Some sleeping as you do, some in stranger and more beautiful ways. The brown bat, small enough to cup in one hand, sleeps for up to 20 hours a day, hanging upside down in caves and attics and beneath bridges, wrapped in its own wings like a small, furry letter folded on itself. Its sleep is long and deep, helping it conserve the enormous energy required for echolocation and flight. In the winter months, bats enter a state of torpor that is even deeper than sleep, a suspension so complete that their heart rate drops from 400 beats per minute to just 10, and they breathe only once every hour or two. They are not dead. They are simply waiting as patiently as stones for the warmth that will call them back. The sea otter floats on its back in the kelp forests of the Pacific coast, wrapping strands of kelp around its body to anchor itself against the current as it sleeps. Sometimes 2 otters will hold hands, reaching across the water to keep from drifting apart. They do this not to be sentimental, though it is hard to watch without feeling something. They do it because the current is indifferent, and the small anchor of another paw means they will wake where they fell asleep, together in the green and gentle water. Whales and dolphins are conscious breathers. They must choose to breathe, unlike us, whose breathing continues without any decision. This means they cannot fully lose consciousness while sleeping, or they would drown. And so they developed unihemispheric sleep, sleeping one half of the brain at a time, while the other half stays awake enough to surface, breathe, and maintain basic awareness. Dolphins can be observed logging at the surface, resting almost motionless, drifting, while one hemisphere sleeps. Then the sleeping half wakes, and the other half takes its turn. The garden snail, if it dries out during hot or cold periods, can enter a state of estivation that can last for months, sealing the opening of its shell with a membrane of dried mucus and withdrawing so completely from the world that its metabolic rate drops to a fraction of its normal level. When the rains return and moisture reaches it, the snail slowly opens, extends its soft body back into the world, and continues on as if no time had passed. The world waited for it. The world always does. Even fish sleep, though without eyelids to close. Reef fish rest in crevices, sometimes changing color to camouflage themselves. Sharks must keep water moving over their gills to breathe, so some species rest while swimming slowly, a kind of navigating in their sleep, guided by ocean current. Parrotfish produce a mucus cocoon around themselves each night. Secreted from a gland near the mouth, it takes about half an hour to form, and apparently masks the parrotfish's scent from predators while it rests. Birds that migrate long distances have developed a remarkable ability to sleep during flight, using unihemispheric sleep the way dolphins do. Frigate birds, tracked by tiny sensors attached to their heads, have been observed sleeping while riding thermal currents, sleeping for only a few seconds at a time in flight, but accumulating enough across long hours to function. On land, they sleep for up to 12 hours. The body adapts to what it needs in the conditions it has. And then there are the trees. Found that birch trees droop at night. Their branches and leaves hang lower by as much as 10 centimeters and recover their posture by morning. The movement follows the night and day cycle, not the temperature or wind. Something in the tree's internal rhythm pulls it downward in the dark and lifts it in the light. What does it mean for a tree to sleep? We cannot say exactly. A tree has no brain, no nervous system, no dreaming mind, but it has a rhythm. It has a relationship with light and dark that is ancient and reliable. It responds in its slow and certain way to the same turning of the world that pulls you toward rest each night. In this, perhaps, you and the tree are not so different. Both of you are held by the planet's rotation. Both of you bend a little toward the dark. Both of you open again when the light returns. There is something deeply comforting in that thought, in the knowledge that your sleep connects you not just to your own body's needs, but to the great web of living things that have been resting in the dark since long before any of us had words for it. There is a particular quality to the world at 3 a.m, not the 3 a.m. of worry and restlessness. That is something else entirely. But the 3 a.m. of deep, good sleep happening in a room, the quality of the air in that room, the particular silence that exists there is unlike the silence of any other hour. Sound itself changes at night. The acoustic environment shifts. Low-frequency traffic noise, human voices, the constant subtle roar of a city going about its business. These diminish or disappear. What remains is often more elemental. Wind in trees, water moving somewhere nearby, the occasional call of a night bird, the small sounds that only become audible once the larger noise is cleared. This quieting of the acoustic world has measurable effects on the body. Exposure to chronic noise, even at levels that seem unremarkable during the day, is associated with disrupted sleep and increased cardiovascular stress at night. The body does not simply stop hearing when it sleeps. It continues to monitor the soundscape at a lower level of processing and is sensitive to certain sounds in particular. Your name spoken softly will reach you even in fairly deep sleep. The cry of a young child in a parent's brain is wired to penetrate sleep more reliably than almost any other sound. This monitoring is protective. The sleeping brain has never entirely abandoned its ancestral function as a watch, keeping one ear to the darkness for anything that might require response. But when the night is quiet enough, when no such signals arrive, the brain can give itself more fully to the deeper work of restoration. The gentler the soundscape, the deeper the sleep tends to be. There is a practice in some Japanese traditions called Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, that involves simply spending time among trees, moving slowly, breathing the forest air, allowing the sensory qualities of the natural environment to wash over you. Research on this practice has found it associated with decreased cortisol, lower blood pressure, improved mood, and better immune function, effects that persist for days after a single forest visit. The forest, in other words, carries something that benefits the body in ways that are measurable. Part of this may be phytoncides, organic compounds released by trees and plants into the air. Some of these compounds, particularly those released by conifers, have been found to increase the activity of natural killer cells in the immune system. You breathe the forest, and your immune system quietly strengthens. You sleep with the window open near a garden, and something similar in a smaller measure, maybe at work. The sounds of nature, too, seem to carry particular benefits. Studies of hospital patients have found that recordings of natural soundscapes, rain, birdsong, flowing water, reduce self-reported pain and anxiety compared to urban soundscapes or silence. The body recognizes these sounds as safe. They belong to the world in which it evolved. They mean nothing is wrong. They mean the night is proceeding as it should and rest is appropriate. Rain is perhaps the most universal of nature's sleep sounds. The patter of rain on leaves, on rooftops, on still water. It has soothed human beings toward sleep for as long as there have been human beings. There is even a sound phenomenon called pink noise, a mix of frequencies that falls between white noise and something lower that rain approximates naturally. Pink noise has been shown in several studies to enhance slow-wave sleep and improve memory consolidation, particularly in older adults. The rain is not just pleasant. It is physiologically supportive of the very sleep it accompanies. The wind carries a similar quality when it moves through the right things. The sound of wind in pine trees, that particular susurrus, soft and continuous, shifting in pitch as the gusts rise and fall, has been described across cultures as inherently calming, inherently sleep-adjacent. In the mountains, the sound of wind at night can be so encompassing, so constant, that it functions almost like a blanket, surrounding you completely, filling every silence, leaving no room for anxious thought. Water, more than almost any other natural sound, returns us to something deep and old. We began near water. Our ancestors lived by rivers and coastlines and lakes. The sound of water moving carries at some level an ancient signal. This is a good place. Things live here. You can rest here. The sound of waves is one of the oldest lullabies there is. And in whatever quiet you have found tonight, whether your window is open to a garden or the sound of your neighborhood has softened with the hour, or you are simply resting in the ordinary hush of a sleeping house, that quiet is working for you. The body knows it. The body loves it. Let it in. Let it be enough. We are drawing closer to the end of our journey tonight, but there is no hurry. The night is long and generous, and there is still so much of it left for you. Let these last thoughts come slowly, like the first light of morning that does not arrive all at once, but builds, almost imperceptibly, at the edges of the sky. The moment of waking, the transition back from sleep to consciousness, is one of the most remarkable crossings the mind makes. It does not happen in a single instant. It happens in layers, like a depth gradually shallowing, like a ship slowly emerging from fog. First, perhaps, a vague awareness of your body, the warmth of where you lie. Then sounds begin to register. Then the sense of who and where you are assembles itself, piece by piece, from the information available. There is a name for the grogginess of waking, sleep inertia, and it is the residue of the sleep state, particularly if you have been woken from deep slow-wave sleep. The brain's performance drops temporarily, and it takes 10 to 20 minutes for full alertness to establish itself. This is not a malfunction. It is the cost of the journey you are on. You're somewhere far and deep, and coming back takes a moment. The moment before fully waking, the hypnopompic state, the mirror of the hypnagogic, can carry its own strange quality. Images that linger, a dream feeling that has not quite released its hold, an unusual clarity or softness of thought. Some people experience this as confusion. Others find it creative, a liminal place where insight can arrive before the rational mind has fully reinstated its usual categories. Writers and artists have described using this moment deliberately, staying in it as long as possible, following where it leads before sitting up and letting it go. Cortisol rises naturally in the last hour or two before waking, part of the body's preparation for the day, a gentle mobilization. By the time you open your eyes, your body has already begun the process of shifting from parasympathetic to sympathetic activation, from rest and restore to face the day. This cortisol awakening response is a healthy and important part of the daily rhythm. It is not the stress of emergency. It is the readiness of a well-rested being gathering itself for what comes next. The morning that follows a genuinely good night's sleep has a particular quality that many people can recognize even if they have not had words for it. A slight lightness, a greater ease of thought, an openness to what the day might offer rather than a braced resistance to it. Color can seem a little more vivid. Appetite is clearer. The body moves more willingly. The mind turns faster without effort. This is not imagination. It is the result of the night's work. The cleaned brain, the consolidated memories, the restored emotional regulation, the replenished immune response, the growth hormones' quiet repairs. You are, in a very real sense, a slightly newer version of yourself each morning, not changed, but renewed. The same river, but fresher water. There is a Swahili word, asubuhi, for the morning, specifically the very early morning, the time between night and full day, when light is beginning, but the world has not yet stirred. There is a quality to this time that many people feel without a word for it. A hush, a softness, a sense of the day being still possible, still open, not yet written. Sleep delivers you to this moment every single morning. It is its quiet, faithful gift. Some of the oldest human rituals are oriented toward this gift. Morning prayers, morning meditations, the practice of spending the first waking moments in stillness. These recognize that the transition from sleep to day is a significant crossing, worth marking with attention. The morning is different from what follows. It carries the residue of the night, the freshness of the cleaned and rested mind, and that freshness is available for a window of time before the day's full demands arrive. All of this is waiting for you on the other side of tonight's sleep, the morning with its slightly lighter air, the first thought of the day arriving without the weight of the previous day's accumulation, the sense, small but real, that things might be manageable, that you have what you need, that the world, though it has not changed, is somehow approachable. That gift is built in the dark in the quiet, in exactly the hours you're resting through now. It is already being made for you. All that is required is that you sleep. We have come a long way together tonight, through the soft architecture of the sleeping brain, through the body's midnight workshop, through the cleaning rivers and dreaming libraries and emotional tides of rest, through the world's creatures in their strange and beautiful sleep, through the ancient wisdom of stillness that has always known something the busy waking mind sometimes forgets. And now we are here at the end of the story, in the deepest hour of the night. And there is really only one thing left to say. You are safe. That is what sleep, at its core, is asking you to trust. That for these hours you can let go of holding everything together. You can release the vigilance. You can allow your body, faithful, ancient, endlessly capable, to take over the watch, because it has been doing this your entire life. Every single night, without exception, your body has known what to do. It has cleaned and repaired and consolidated and regulated and renewed. It has carried you through thousands of nights already, and it knows the way. The world outside your window has grown as quiet as it will get. The hour is deep. The air is cool and still. And somewhere in the vast, dark, turning world, birds are sleeping with their heads tucked under their wings. Otters are drifting in the kelp. Trees are resting with their branches slightly lowered. The cleaning river is flowing through the sleeping brain of everyone who has let themselves go to rest. You are part of that. You are not separate from that great shared exhale that the living world takes every night. You belong to it completely, in every sleepy cell of your being. Let your breathing slow a little more. Feel how heavy and warm your body has become, how much of it has already let go. There may be thoughts still moving through your mind, gentle and unhurried as clouds, and that is perfectly all right. You do not need to stop them. You do not need to do anything at all. Sleep does not require effort. It only requires permission. So here, gently, at the end of this quiet journey, give yourself that permission. Let the day go completely. Let the thoughts drift wherever they want to go, and feel how your body, without any instruction from you, is already sinking deeper, already softening, already crossing that invisible threshold where wakefulness ends and the great, warm country of sleep begins. The night is long and full of rest. The morning is waiting at its far edge, patient and full of light. And in between, your body will do everything it has always done, tenderly, faithfully, without needing you to help. All you have to do is close your eyes. All you have to do is let go. And if this story brought you even a little peace tonight, even a small settling, a slight loosening of the day's grip, we would love to know. Leave a quiet comment when you wake. And when you need another night like this, the playlist is there for you, full of soft and gentle stories about rain and forests and the quiet world. We are always here whenever you need us. But for now, for this moment, this night, this beautifully ordinary miracle of rest, close your eyes. Let your breathing carry you. You are held. You are safe. And somewhere in the dark, on the other side of sleep, the morning is already beginning, golden, quiet, and full of the gift of who you will be when you wake. Rest well.